introduction to contemplative prayer. Does anybody know what that is? It's also known as silent prayer or meditation. And we've kind of talked about this a bit lately in church, and as we've been mentioning it, and because one of the speakers at our conference is Chris Whittington, who heads up the School of Contemplative Life, which is an online thing, I thought it'd be helpful to give an introduction to the practice. You may think meditation is just for monks or Buddhists, not for me. You may not understand what it really is. Some Christians are suspicious of it, thinking it is connected to pagan Eastern religions and is even dangerous. This, I believe, is a misconception, and I hope to clear up some of these misunderstandings. For a definition of contemplative prayer, I am referring to the home page of the School of Contemplative Life's website. I quote, "Meditation, also known as silent prayer, is the spiritual art of turning to the sacred within. The simple, universal practice helps liberate us from the resistances and self-oriented habits that veil the sacred within each of us and all creation. It can be said to be going down from the head to the heart. It is a tradition that has been largely lost in the Christian world, although I think that is now changing with people looking for inner peace and seeking a different kind of Christianity from what they've been taught. If you think back to the 60s, the Beatles and George Harrison went to the East to find peace, didn't they? And they went to Eastern religions. Well, if meditation had been around in this country, they wouldn't have had to do that. Meditation or silent prayer has a tradition in all the main religions, including Islam and Buddhism. As regards Christianity, it is an ancient practice and goes back to Jesus himself. In many places in the New Testament, we read that Jesus would draw aside to be on his own and pray. For example, in Luke 5, verse 16, after being surrounded by crowds of people and ministering to them, we read, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Right at the start of his ministry, Jesus went into the desert for 40 days and nights. In Mark 1, verse 35, after a day when he had healed many people and driven out demons, we read, "Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed." In Matthew 6, before he teaches his disciples the Lord's Prayer, he instructs them, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." And it goes on in verses 7 and 8. "And when you pray, do not keep babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him." This implies we don't need to use many words at all. Some translations say, "Go into your inner room and pray to your Father in secret." This can be seen as silent prayer, leaving the outer room of your self-preoccupation and thoughts and entering the inner room of self-forgetfulness. Many of us have been conditioned to take the Bible literally. However, it is not the only way to approach it. Often there is a deeper spiritual meaning, as the example above shows. Now I will give a bit of history. It is believed that the way of silent prayer has come directly from Jesus' teaching and lifestyle. Starting in the 3rd century, men who wanted to seek God withdrew from civilization and what they felt were its corrupting effects to the deserts of Egypt to live a life of contemplation and seek to follow Jesus in practical terms. They are known as the Desert Fathers. And I presume they saw a direct connection to Jesus when he went into the desert for 40 days and nights. They sought to overcome negative thoughts and emotions, looked after each other when they were ill, and showed hospitality. The first desert father was Paul of Thebes, but the most well-known is Anthony the Great, who moved to the desert in around 270 AD and became known as both the father and founder of desert monasticism. By the time of his death in 356 AD, thousands of monks and nuns had been drawn to live in the desert, and it was said that the desert had become a city. The Desert Fathers lived in the deserts of Egypt, Palestine, and Syria, and significantly influenced the development of Christianity. And the desert communities became the model for Christian monasticism, which, you've heard of monasteries, etc. Significant desert fathers who you may have heard of are Evagrius, Saint Augustine, and Saint Gregory the Great. A man called John Cassian is credited with bringing the influence of the Desert Fathers to the West. Contemplative prayer was a common practice in the monastic tradition. And to quote the author and monk Benignus O'Rourke, it was a rich part of the Christian tradition up to medieval times. He goes on to say, it is only in our own lifetime that we've woken up to the fact that here in the West, for 600 or so years, the treasure of pure, silent prayer has been almost completely forgotten and abandoned, even in religious communities. That's from his book called Finding Your Hidden Treasure. As the formal church gained power, contemplative prayer was less favoured and lost amongst the traditions of Catholicism, Protestantism, and evangelicalism. However, there has remained an underlying presence. People of note in connection with contemplative prayer during the Middle Ages are Julian of Norwich, an anchorite who devoted her life to contemplative prayer and wrote Revelations of Divine Love, following a series of divine revelations she was given. The unknown author of The Cloud of Unknowing and the author of The Imitation of Christ. There are another 2 books. More recently, we can look to the monk Thomas Merton, and currently, many of you will have heard of Richard Rohr, who has written many books and founded the Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So what is the practice? It is very simple. In the Benedictine tradition, meditation consists of sitting in a relaxed but upright position and concentrating on your breathing. And then, if it is helpful, introducing a prayer word such as peace or love or thank you, which is said internally with the in-breath and the out-breath. Traditionally, some people recite the Jesus prayer. Lord Jesus Christ with the in-breath, have mercy on me with the out-breath, or simply Jesus. So you'd say G and then Zus with the out-breath. This is usually done for 20 minutes each morning and evening. Other thoughts will come into your mind and you will inevitably start having a conversation in your head and be distracted. When this happens and you become aware of it, you simply return to focusing on your breath and the prayer word. If you're distracted 100 times, 1,000 times, and return to your breathing and prayer word, it doesn't matter. This is just the practice. So why do people practice? The usual reason people come to meditation is because they want to find more inner peace or feel closer to God. In this tradition, God is seen as the ground of our being. And when we are quiet and still ourselves in meditation, we sense the awareness that is behind all our thoughts and emotions. It is in this awareness that we are inexplicably connected to God. I'll give you an illustration. If God is the sun, then we are the rays of the sun. Jesus used a similar picture when he described himself as the true vine and that we are the branches. There is a union there. The branches can't exist without the vine, nor are there rays of sun without the sun itself. But equally, a vine has to have branches, and the sun inevitably produces rays. What are the benefits of having a regular practice? With regular practice and after time spent, people find many benefits. These include being able to stand back from difficult thoughts, having more peace and less anxiety, being less reactive to people and situations, and generally having a better feeling of well-being. As you practice, you realize there is a vast space behind your thoughts. This is described as awareness. It is in this awareness that we are connected to God. We realize we're not our thoughts, but the place where they happen. An illustration of this is the sky. The sky remains the same despite the clouds and the weather that arise in it. So with us, there is a deeper space within us that doesn't change, even though we may be tossed here and there by our thoughts and feelings. This Chris Whittington describes as the ground of our being, which is love or God. Another helpful picture is that of the sea. There may be strong waves on the surface of the sea, but in the depths it is calm. In the story of Peter walking on the water, he is fine while he's looking at Jesus. But when he becomes focused on the wind and the waves, he begins to sink. So with us and our thoughts and feelings, they can disturb and drag us down. The practice of silent prayer helps us to detach from the storm of our thoughts and emotions and keep in a calm, centered place. The understanding that God is the ground of our being is quite a different way of approaching our faith than the dualistic understanding of us being down here and God being a lofty, all-powerful being somewhere else. Rather, it's a non-dualistic understanding. That means just one, where we are part of God in some amazing way. John Mastrogiovanni, who we know well, refers to us as being emanations of Christ, a bit like the rays of the sun. The rays are what come from the sun, and as Jesus says, we are the branches of the vine. My journey, nearly there. Thanks, Sam. Thank you. Thank you. My journey. I actually came to this kind of prayer because I was looking for a local prayer group, which we didn't have in church at the time. I was looking online, and the School of Contemplative Prayer came up on Meetup, which is an online site that helps people connect to local and national interest groups. I was drawn to explore this as nothing else was presenting itself, and signed up for the twice-weekly Zooms. That was getting on for 2 years ago. These involved joining with as many as 150 others now. Chris gives a short talk, then we meditate for 20 minutes, and then there is an opportunity to give feedback or ask questions. Being part of an online community helps you to maintain a regular practice. I don't think I would have kept it up otherwise. The people are kind and supportive of each other. I've had a daily practice for over a year now and generally feel more grounded, although I have my moments. And it has helped my mental health. I think it has helped me in my healing journey from the trauma of domestic abuse. However, it isn't a quick fix. The benefits are seen over time and with a daily practice. Some days it feels like you're wading through treacle and willing the time to go. And other days it feels easier, and I feel a sense of spaciousness with connection to the deeper mind or awareness. Another aspect of contemplative prayer or meditation is that it leads to more of a sense of oneness with other people and creation. This is important as we realize we're all connected to each other. Surely an understanding and experience of this is needed in our world today, where there is so much division and unrest. Therefore, meditation can be seen as a means to peace and better relationships. Thankfully, the Christian world is, I believe, reconnecting with this simple practice. Finally, I'd like to recommend some books on the subject. A good one to start with is Finding Your Hidden Treasure by Benignus O'Rourke, who I quoted earlier. Another recommended is Into the Silent Land by Martin Laird. There are also books appearing that have been written by younger men who have been searching for a deeper relationship with God. New York Times bestseller John Mark Comer has written The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry and Practicing the Way, which in part covers the practice of silent prayer. Another book I've come across is entitled Beholding by Strawn Coleman, who discovered silent prayer as part of his healing journey from a debilitating illness. To finish with a quote from his book, I had been asking for love my whole life, expecting it to come at me from heaven in some kind of tangible, miraculous way. Instead, I needed to awaken to the reality of its existence within me, to accept it not as something God gives, but as who he is. I needed to commit myself to daily sitting in that reality and nothing else, welcoming, believing, receiving, and experiencing it. Thank you for listening.